I've been with CPAC for a long time. All of these years we've been together, and now you finally have a president. Finally. Took you a long time. Took you a long time. And it's patriots like you that made it happen, believe me. Believe me. They all underestimated the power of the people, you. And the people proved them totally wrong.
The 45th President of the United States firing up the crowd at CPAC today, the annual gathering of conservatives. He received a very warm welcome, and here's more words of optimism from the President to his energized party earlier.
But I'm here today to tell you what this movement means for the future of the Republican Party and for the future of America. The core conviction of our movement is that we are a nation that put and will put its own citizens first. Now is the time for action. We will cut wasteful spending. We will promote our values. We will rebuild our inner cities. We will bring back our jobs and our dreams. The GOP will be, from now on, the party also of the American worker. We have an amazing, strong, powerful party that truly does want to see America be great again, and it will see it, and it's going to see it a lot sooner than you think.
All right, so a lot more red meat today offered up from the 45th President of the United States, and people were hungry. They had an appetite for it. Eric, it went over very well with his base, much like we saw yesterday when Bannon spoke.
I couldn't believe he didn't get a standing ovation, though. I'm kidding. They stood, and he said, sit down, and they stood up again. He said, sit down, but the media wasn't going to report the standing ovation. Look,
because it's standing room only.
It was crowded. Dana's right. It was very crowded. I'll give you that. Look, it was. I didn't hear any new, there was any policy. It was firing up the people that love him, and that's what CPAC is. I found it interesting. He said, I'll be back as often as I can next year, the year after. That was promising. And I think that, you know, and we touched on it a little bit yesterday. The CPAC crowd had been historically, or had been recently, very libertarian, leaning libertarian.
Sure.
I don't know that there's a lot of libertarianism in Donald Trump's policy, but this crowd loved him. They were engaged. They were clapping. They stood up. They yelled. They hooted. It was a hometown crowd.
Okay. All right, Dana, what did you make of it compared to years past?
Well, he didn't go last year, remember? I think.
No, but in terms of the crowd and enthusiasm.
Yeah, I think parties change and politics change, and some people are excited about it, and others are sort of reluctant, but maybe excited. I thought it was interesting today that one of the best things that he's done so far, in my opinion, has been his nomination of Neil Gorsuch, the Supreme Court nominee. And he didn't even mention it today, but I think that he would have gotten even more applause had he done so. And I think that nomination is assured to be confirmed. I think you even hear some whisperings from other Supreme Court justices who are
Ginsburg, right? You were telling me earlier.
That Ginsburg apparently thinks like he's a good guy, like he's qualified, and so I think that was something he could have done. The other thing is, I think this is sort of one of the last times, at least in a forum like this, where the president will give a speech that's sort of looking backwards as to the campaign, because starting on Tuesday night, when he will give a primetime address to a joint session of Congress, this is where he starts to put some meat on the bones of the policies he's been talking about. And so the speech next year that he gives, he's hoping, and I think maybe people that support him hope, that then he'll be able to tick off a few things that shows the accomplishments that he was able to make in that first year. So next year's speech will be very different to this one's.
All right, Greg, any highlights for you and something that perhaps he should have brought up or left out?
I thought his speech was the best speech since the Gettysburg Address. It was better. It was better. He makes Abe Lincoln sound like Abe Vigoda. That's how good he is.
Perfect. So you would have been standing.
No, actually, the one thing I find refreshing,
we wouldn't be able to see you.
For a first, it's a first that conservative gatherings aren't miserable. Because generally like the audience is a good audience, but they always have people that are very dead serious. And to his credit, Trump brings humor and excitement to the group. So it's like what he does is he takes it's like the Five. It's like what we do for a living. We take really boring crap and we boil it down to like entertaining nuggets.
Yeah, wait till the C block.
Oh, I know. Obama. But anyway, but that's what he does. He takes stuff.
Exactly.
He takes stuff that has normally been presented as dry, and he boils it down to these little, sharp, funny nuggets where Obama had the soaring rhetoric. Trump has these, like, raw punchlines that you just kind of laugh and you go, fine, and you start looking around at the people that are around, and everybody seems to be having a good time. And I also thought there was an evolution in this speech where he mixed talking points and riffing off the script, which he's doing better. He's now playing rhythm and lead guitar as he plays all of his big hits, like, you know, The Wall, Obamacare, and Fair Trade. Those are the classic ones that he does, you know, as a medley. So
Everybody
I think
knows the words.
everybody knows the words, and they clap.
I like it when he goes lead, though. I like it when he goes off prompter and just riffs and talks and. You know, and he doesn't
Abe
hold
Lincoln
back.
couldn't do that.
He doesn't hold back.
And
I realized in this speech today, maybe in others as well, the way he delivers a line, and not a policy line, not a written line, just the way he delivers it, it's the way everyone in that audience would be talking to a friend over a cup of coffee or over dinner. And I think that's why the billionaire from Madison or Fifth Avenue is the people's choice, the populist choice. How is that possible? Because he speaks the way they speak, the way we speak, not the way politicians speak.
Juan, does it work for you?
Wow, he's the populist choice. Let me just say, I don't think most Americans didn't vote for him, and if you look at the polls these days, wow, he's cratering. You know, it's just not good. He's in the high 30s. No, you look at the Real Clear Politics average. I think it has in 38, 39, 40, something like that.
There's a
disapproval
43
in the 50s.
and there's a 55.
Hang on, you know, let me just speak for a second. I know you don't like it, but come on. So it seems to me that today was more campaigning. It was another campaign speech. I wonder how many campaign speeches he's going to give.
A lot.
I mean, it
All
just
of
goes
them?
on and on.
Yeah.
And
All of
then
them.
it is stream of consciousness. But you know what? At some point, I was expecting he'd be presidential. He would start to act like the president of the United States.
When would you expect that?
I had expected it actually after he won.
Everyone told you he was going to be Donald Trump. He wasn't going to be yet another.
No. He said, I'm going to be so presidential.
Saying that
Didn't he say that, Eric?
He can't win the general election unless he pivots to become more presidential.
Eric.
Everyone said, don't do that. You won the
He
primary.
did.
You're going to win on being Donald Trump.
And then he said to all of us, and I believe he said, and you heard it, I'm going to be so presidential you're going to not believe it.
You know what's great about these speeches?
But he's not presidential.
These speeches, they create two competing realities. You can have two groups of people who see two completely different things. Right. Somebody says, this is fun, it's great. Another person says, that is a load of crap. And somewhere it's in the middle. Life is in the middle of both extremes. And we got to stop, you know, we got to stop saying he's the worst guy in the world and he's the greatest guy in the world, because you're actually just canceling each other out.
The people who don't like him say he's got to pivot, he's got to change.
No.
Meanwhile,
he's not going to do that.
Stock market's making record highs.
If he wants to speak directly and off the cuff and go after everybody, right, and say things that really aren't true, okay, but at least I want to have confidence in the president that he's governing, that he's got control of the country. And when he does stuff like today about, I was right about Sweden, as the nasty press was wrong, and there were riots after, you think to yourself, hey,
CPAC,
there was no terror attack in Sweden.
That's not what he meant, though. You know that's not what he meant.
That is
he
what
was talking about what's happening in there, an immigrant crisis is what he was referring to. And it turned out he was right.
No,
that's why all the mockery went away the next day.
That's not... You're kidding me. The mockery
Swedish
is
politicians backed him up.
No, they did
not. The two leading Democrats did.
There's a lot of problems.
Let me give you an article from the Wall Street Journal.
Okay. No, I saw what you're talking about, but I don't think anybody backed him up on this.
All right. Tighten it up here, Juan. The president took another opportunity today to share his feelings about the mainstream media. Here's that.
And I want you all to know that we are fighting the fake news. It's fake, phony, fake. A few days ago, I called the fake news the enemy of the people, and they are. They are the enemy of the people because they have no sources. They just make them up when there are none. But I am only against the fake news media or press. Fake.
All right. A few hours later, more tensions unfolded with the press after CNN, the New York Times, and other news outlets were kept out of a White House gaggle today. So, Dana, this was a kind of big breaking news throughout the day. A lot of people talking about it. What do you think happened here, and did you ever do that?
I'm not exactly sure what happened. I mean, I've sort of read the reports about it. I agree with Bret Baier, who's the chief chief political correspondent here and the anchor of Special Report, that a gaggle is open for everybody. A gaggle, all it basically is a press briefing without a camera.
Sure.
That's what it is. Like, you could have different meetings for different people. I think one of the problems is a couple. One, they said there would be a gaggle today and everyone was invited. Then they changed that, and then they only called certain news outlets to say that you're invited. Then some reporters got in there like, wait, why aren't those other people here? And then it became a whole thing. So it becomes like a whole story, and it steps on the message for the weekend, because even though they might think that it makes them look strong because they're punching back against the mainstream media, I actually think that it was a stumble. I don't think it'll happen again. I could be wrong. I think that they should feel confident in their answers and be able to answer them, because now what you have is other reporters saying, well, I wouldn't do that. And when in 2009, President Obama tried to get Fox News blocked.
And that's what Brett Baer was referring to.
And other outlets there said, oh, no, you're not able to do that. We know you don't like Fox News or what they say, but that's not going to stand with us. And so I think that it won't happen again, but...
Now, you favored it, but not you didn't retweet that.
Well, can I say just one other thing about, one of the things Ari Fleischer, former press secretary, said was that you can't have, there are instances where you have briefings where you might just invite a few reporters. And way back when the news weeklies were actual weeklies, I remember the White House communications director would meet with them, I think it was every Thursday, so that we could try to shape the message for those news magazines that came out on Sundays. As soon as the 24/7 news cycle took hold, that went away. It wasn't necessary anymore. So I don't think that reasoning or excuse actually holds up.
Look,
in this case.
I do not see the big deal. I'm not allowed in the women's locker room at Gold's Gym. It's not that I'm uninvited or barred. I'm just not allowed in there. I don't see the point in this. Also, you got to imagine.
That absolutely makes no sense.
I know.
No, it was just ridiculous.
You got to imagine.
Because you are allowed.
No, I'm not in the girls' locker room. Imagine the guys or the women, the men, and the other reporters that are already in there and wondering where the other people are. It's like when somebody says they're having a bunch of people over, and you show up and you're the only person. Have you ever done that?
Or the time you were disinvited from Dana's Thanksgiving soiree.
Oh, yeah, but I'm used to that. I don't know. I honestly think there's not a lot here. So what?
I'm going to disagree with that. I think let me put it this way. I doubt this came from President Trump. This feels like is a comms department call. For whatever reason, there may be a trial balloon to see how this was going to go over. I have to side with the media, with the press, saying that they should have access. Every single credentialed media should have had access to that briefing, whatever it was.
Right, because this happened to us before, too.
Yeah, and
or
again,
don't call it a gaggle.
Right.
Yeah, what if it was a
You want to just invite the pool in, it would be different.
I think they should. Listen, have a briefing. Don't call on certain groups if you don't like the way they ask
Have a big
questions,
tent.
but at least have access.
But I think there's another element here, which is this happened right after Trump gives a speech in which he goes after the press very aggressively, right? He says, oh, you guys have sources. Well, I don't believe you had the sources.
Right.
He says that basically he repeats Bannon's argument that the press is a corporate media, and the corporate media got the campaign wrong, and now corporate media, shut up. That's exactly his language. Shut up. So to me, this is beyond, like, you know, normally I could be adversarial with Dana, as Dana's the press secretary, and we're having I see things this way.
You wouldn't dare.
No, not with you.
She'll give you her
too sharp.
icy stare.
But I got to tell you, this is really threatening. I think this is unsettling. So Greg gives me the look.
I'm just saying, is it really threatening? We're talking about it. No one's being silenced. We're making a huge deal out of it.
All right,
this is the hypocrisy of these stupid stories about him complaining about the press. No one ever shuts up about it.
No, but here's the thing. They're the opposition party, and today you have stories that, again, no sources, even as, by the way, the Trump White House has briefings and says, we want this off the record or whatever. But guess what? Stories about Reince Priebus asking the FBI, hey, can you knock down these stories about Russia and intelligence communications with the White House?
Juan jumping the shark
I've heard
again.
differently.
Oh.
All right, so bottom line is obviously they had a good day yesterday, today at CPAC, so you want that to be the lead in the message, right, Dana?